Now, during the break, you were telling me about your seminars on the 19-point review, and I find that very interesting. Can you share a little bit, please?
Sure. Well, I mentioned before that we find that empowering people to understand what they have for their planning that may have been done a year, 10, 20 years ago. We've developed a 19-point trust, estate, and asset protection guide. And we'll run through that at the workshop to go over some of the main points, and then we'll, if they're interested, we can go through an individualized review as well. But in particular, in the health end of things, it's so important to stay in control. One of the areas we're constantly reviewing are the health documents, of course, in addition to avoiding probate, saving tax. And we do that at the workshop. People can sign up to attend that free of charge by visiting the website or calling the 800 number for dates and times and to attend.
That's great. And you were talking about the documents. The current health care documents would be what, a health care proxy, HIPAA document?
Yeah, exactly.
And will that avoid all the bureaucracy and red tape?
Well, if you've got current health care documents, and generally it's within the last year, I'm told by many of the top hospitals, documents need to be less than a year old, and that would be the HIPAA, healthcare proxy, and but it's very important to have those available when they're needed. You know, the AMA says that only 76% of the times they're not available when they're needed. It is a problem.
It is a problem, so you have to keep them updated as well,
Keep them updated and have a way to have them available. That's right.
Now, let's go on to protecting our children and grandchildren in a plan. It's not just our spouses we worry about, it's our children. I mean, what happens if you pass away? I mean, and your spouse remarries? I mean, will your children and grandchildren be disinherited?
Well, it could be. If all your property is left in joint names, your children and grandchildren could be disinherited. That's one of the important aspects that we go through, excuse me, in the 19-point review, is to see how the property is titled. We'll actually create an x-ray of the client's assets so as to make sure that the title is proper. If they have a trust, it ought to be titled over to the trust, or if they have IRAs or other plans, insurance ought to be coordinated to the trust, and the terms of the trust reviewed to provide just that, so that in the case of a remarriage, the children and grandchildren aren't disinherited. So it's very, very important to make sure that terms of everything are working the right way so that that does not happen.
You know, it just seems that there are lawsuits that are filed every 30 seconds. I mean, is there something that can be done to protect yourself from a lawsuit?
Well, there's quite a bit that can be done, and I think it's every 30 seconds or so a lawsuit is filed. Of course, there's bankruptcy. I think the statistics are that 1 out of every 2 marriages ends up in divorce these days. And these are problems that, you know, it occurs to me that, you know, a client many years ago had come to our office, and we helped them with avoiding probate and saving taxes with a trust and coordinated the assets to it. And he came back in a few years later and said there had been a situation that developed in his family that one of his sons was in the process of getting a divorce. And we're initially planned at the conference room table, asked them what Mr. and Mrs. C would like to happen in their planning, and they said, well, they're good kids, we'd like them to have it. We don't want to rule from the grave, so they can have their assets and income whenever they want it. But at this point with a divorce, they said, well, although she's a nice gal, they don't want her to get everything. So is there something we could do? And fortunately, the answer is yes. We're able to adjust the plan so that for all 3 children, whether it was the divorce, a lawsuit, or bankruptcy that took place, the assets were going to be protected. That inheritance was protected for the children. So we learned at that point that we can't just leave it. It's simply going to the children. You know, 95% of the times, that's exactly how we see it when we review plans that people already have. They don't realize this other option to better protect things for both children and grandchildren. So it's a very important part of planning. Ever since that occasion, helping that client, and we've worked with a family for a long, long time, we've explained it much better to clients. And I can't think of one, although I'm sure it's happened, but almost every time they'll opt to have protection for children and grandchildren because it's so important, especially in today's world.
Yeah, like you said, you're protecting your legacy.
Exactly.
And they want their children to be taken care of, but you want your legacy for it to go on and on and on. And like you said, you have clients for a long time. This is a relationship, a family building relationship.
Right. It's not about the documents or taxes. It's about helping the family. Number one, understand the planning they have, or if they don't have any planning, understanding exactly what can be accomplished in the healthcare area, tax area, avoiding probate and protection. So there's a tremendous amount that can be accomplished. Even in today's economy with the financial roller coaster, a lot can be done. There's, you know, there may be a number of problems, but for every problem there's a solution, be it protecting things from a divorce or watching out for lawsuits. So there's a lot that can be done, but it's all about letting the family know what's possible up front, then helping them put that plan in place. One of the first steps is them understanding and gaining the confidence that, oh, we can do that, and makes sense. So they get the planning in place, and we're there to help them going forward. We've actually developed a lifetime protection program for clients, so we'll work with them for the foreseeable future to make sure that documents are up to date and everything's going to work the way it's supposed to, so that things are protected for their lifetime, for the spouse at home, their life savings home, and then eventually the legacy. So there's a lot to it, and we're committed to helping people through the lifetime protection program right on through to disability or if they pass away down the road, and then helping the children after that.
That's great. You really like what you do. What's the reward for you?
Well, the reward is just as we just talked about. It's the satisfaction knowing that you're able to help people and develop with them the peace of mind so they've got the confidence to take the steps to accomplish what they want.
Right.
So it's not all about the taxes, although that's important, or the documents, although that's all part of it. But it's actually knowing that we're doing a great job for people so they get the peace of mind that things are protected for themselves, spouse, family, the home, and life savings is protected. So much to it.
No kidding. Now, what about taxes?
Well, taxes are here to stay. Taxes are increasing in the future. I think we've got some information available that actually a client would get to pick who would actually get their money.
Right.
And I think you can see in 90% of the cases, the money goes in this particular order. First to the nursing home if either the husband or the wife gets sick. Secondly, you've got taxes, the Internal Revenue Service or Department of Revenue. But you get to arrange these in whatever order you want. So although 90% of the time the funds go in the order that's listed there, with the family being in control, understanding options and what can be accomplished, they're able to reverse or put their plan into place to pick what goes where. Most often it's for themselves during their lifetime, for a spouse at home if one gets sick, and then on to family members. There's a possibility that if clients wanted to, they'd actually disinherit the IRS and the Department of Revenue. So there's a lot to it, but understanding the options is
very important, very important. And how can people get in touch with you?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. They can contact us through the website at estateplanandassetprotection.com, or they could call the office and sign up for a complimentary workshop at 800-964-4295.
Fantastic. Hold your thoughts again, okay?
Okay, we'll do.
Okay.
Thanks, Patty.
Stay tuned as Leading Experts will be right back.